lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me today is a really dope indie cartoonist. I got Jeff Manley with me. So he has definitely been on my radar. Wanted to talk with him for whatever reason. My horrible scheduling has kind of kept it, but I'm glad to finally have you on. Talk Riley Teenage Bigfoot, which I'm a huge fan of, and just talk your cartooning career, dude. So welcome.
Oh, awesome, thank you. I'm glad to be on the show. I'm a longtime watcher. I don't know how that saying goes.
Yeah, no, it's it's always nice to kind of have somebody reach out to me, and
Right.
You were going to be somebody I reached out to. I had just been scheduled so much, and like I said, I'm just happy to finally have you on the show, dude. It's
Well, I have to say that you have a lot of people on your show that are very big name cartoonists, and so I'm always like, holy crap, whoa, that's amazing. I'm going to be on the same YouTube channel as that guy or that girl. Boom.
yeah, no,
So,
I don't know when I kind of got the idea of I realized there's so many comic book YouTube channels out there. Number one. Number two, I'm not the only person that does reviews. I'm not the only person that does, I kind of riffed off what the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel did, where they go overhead and look through books. But
if you're gonna rip off from the best. That's what they always
say. So and then the interview thing, I had already did. I had my website where I did written reviews. I had a bunch of people writing for me at one point, and that kind of just fell to the wayside. People, split off. Maybe did their own thing, or
right.
I wasn't paying, so I can't hey, why aren't you writing for me anymore? But the pandemic kind of happened. I did the YouTube channel, and I was doing interviews and all that stuff. And I'm like, you know what? The Kayfabe group on Facebook, the Ringside Seats, super inspirational, super exciting. Discovering your work, a bunch of other people's in the group. Eli is a customer at the shop I work at, and asked me to help edit the Wizard zine. This is
sure.
This was prior to the YouTube channel, so that's kind of how I got familiar. And I'm like, you know what? Not enough eyes, not enough people are.
Oh no,
indie cartoonist. So I was like, that's going to be something I want to have as part of my regular thing. Most part, I try to do it every Monday is my indie creator spotlight. I'm going to start doing the indie comics spotlight, where I'm going to do the overhead, kind of like
sure.
Ed and Jim do. It's just hard, setting up and stuff and getting the time. But
your channel isn't your full-time job, so anything you're doing it out of just a love and a passion for sharing comics with the world. So
that's
congratulations
correct.
That you took that up, because
there's no money. Hey, everybody listening, there's no money involved. I make
no
off of this. This is all purely for the joy and love of comic books. So
yeah, and it shows through when you talk to people that nobody else talks to. It shows that you have a thing for comics that isn't just a monetary, I want to try to get advertising revenue out of this.
Yeah.
No, Lord knows nobody is gonna, search out a Jeff Manley interview on YouTube, in a mass amount enough for there to be, ad revenue. You're doing this just out of the kindness of your heart.
I love comics. And I love everything about them. So I want people, if they haven't heard of you, or whoever I'm talking to, if that brings one more person to you guys, I will feel like that's a success.
That would double my readership.
I'm sure you have a way more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get into you. What started. You already know the deal. I always ask me.
I know.
How they got into comic books, because not everybody is the same, and I like to hear what your first comics were, what started that love, and in turn, what made you want to be a cartoonist.
As I tell people when somebody asks me, "Oh, why are you a cartoonist?" I'm not really good at anything else. I'm also very self-deprecating, but for hilarious purposes. Basically, before I could read, my dad was a newspaper reader, and I fell in love with comic strips. And that was my main source of, seeing cartoonists. And I was just like, who does this stuff? And then my mom was like, there's somebody's job to make this. And I was like, woohoo, I found a career path. And then I spent many years not working hard enough to try to get into newspaper comics. And then I realized that my sense of humor wasn't really for newspaper comics. As anyone watching this will know, if they go to my Instagram, Manley Cartoonist, they will see that my comics aren't really, you know, newspaper friendly.
Yeah.
But I still stick with the newspaper strip format just because that's basically how my brain writes. I've written comics, I've made, you know, full-length graphic novels, but my joke telling is always more of a, you know, 4-panel structure of setup than joke at the end. And so I would just like dive into any newspaper comic strip thing I could find. It was usually the, you know, whatever was in the newspaper. I didn't see a lot of like the Smithsonian newspaper comic strip books or anything until I was in college. And I found a couple of those in my college library. And I was like, holy crap, you know, Little Nemo and Slumberland, this is amazing. You know, things like that. So then I just kept, you know, finding other newspaper comic strips that were amazing. And in that time, I also, you know, fell into reading comic books, you know, in my teenage years because my friends were, and, you know, who doesn't want, you know, Rob Liefeld in their life?
I mean, I hear you on that one, dude.
Yeah.
So like huge Liefeld mark myself. So my
favorite was I found the first appearance of Cable in just one of those like Marvel 3-packs.
Yes, I missed it.
And it was at like a discount store that just sold stuff that no other store could sell. And I was like, oh, and then I traded it for $75 worth of comics to a friend of mine. And I felt that was a good deal. Like,
yeah,
I paid like 80 cents for the issue and then turned it around for big money before it all went to shit in the late 90s.
Yeah. So for the majority of your like younger days, like you were doing just reading the comic strips, and it wasn't until you were a teenager that you really.
Oh yeah, no. My main comic source, you know, was basically like volumes of Garfield and the Peanuts paperback books, you know, things like that. Whatever I could get a hold of it. I did find Mad Magazine. And if anybody's read the Image Grand Disaster, they know that I know who Sergio Aragones is. Even though he probably is offended by what I've done.
I doubt it.
He's got a really good sense of humor. So
he does have a really good sense of humor, and I mean he's a fucking legend, you know.
Oh yeah.
I think that's we'll get into that book. That's you know really something that I loved that happened from a shitty year, something really cool that happened. But
yeah,
you know, besides like, you know, reading the comic strips, which I see, that's what I love asking, is because that's probably the first time that I've heard that where somebody was reading comic strips for the majority.
Oh yeah.
And not getting into like the mainstream.
And like when you get addicted to comic books, you read all comic books, even if you're like, oh, this isn't very good, but I'm still reading Alpha Flight, you know. I was the same way. I was like, if I opened a newspaper page, I would read, you know, Mary Worth and, you know, everything. Just anything on the page, Luann. These are all things that I've read way too many of because they're not very good, but still, it's still cartooning.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah, I mean, I loved comic strips as a kid. I mean, I'm pretty sure Calvin Hobbes was still in the newspapers when I was younger.
Sure.
That's one of the ones that really stood out to me. Obviously, like I read Peanuts when I was a kid, you know, like that's a classic. But yeah, for me, it was like I started with comics. You know what I mean? Like at 5. Yeah. So 29 years, I've been going hard with comics. Very, very rarely in my life did I have too much time away from them. Mostly it's when I was, you know,
women. It was women, right?
No, it was more poor choices in my life, which got
women. That's what I said.
No. Mine was I was put into a place where I had no access to get.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't need to get into details of that, but that was
I know.
only time I didn't read comics because,
Right.
comics have just always been a fixture. And like you said, when you love comics, you'll read everything.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I consumed anything that somebody gave me, anything I get my hands on. And I just think that it's the best medium. I love movies, I love, TV, all that stuff, but comic books are just where my heart is,
And it falls into the category of it's something that one person can make. Like if you set out to make a comic book tomorrow, you could start working on it tomorrow compared to making a film. And so it has a lower access point, but what I'm saying is you need to start making your own comics.
I've been trying. That's bullshit. I have not.
You've been thinking about it.
I have wanted to for the longest time. It's just like I would have to sacrifice something because I already have a full-time job and then I do right. So it's like something is going to have to take a back seat, and it's not going to be the job that pays my rent,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So to take a back seat from the channel is just hard to do. I feel like I enjoy doing it. But I feel like I would really enjoy making a comic as well. I can't draw for it. But
it just takes time. That's all. You gotta just keep working at it. Most of my comics are drawn on my lunch hour in my car on my iPad. So it's not like
you pump it out though.
Yeah.
Pumping them out.
It's basically I like to make myself laugh. And so like if I, pick up The Complete Riley, which is currently on
hefty one, yeah.
It's currently on Kickstarter until the end of the month. But if I pick that up and I flip to any page, the joke will still make me laugh. Like every time. Like I've read every strip in that book way more than I should admit. And it makes me laugh every time. I'm like, I'm the funniest person I know. And so basically my output is just because I want to make myself laugh. And
it comes across.
Making other people laugh is a bonus. Like, oh, you have the same weird sense of humor I do? Excellent. So
that's what I love about the book. I love about Teenage Bigfoot. It's funny and it's a light read, you know what I mean? It's not heavy. I can just like open a page like you said and just you're laughing, right? Like that's what's really super appealing about your work, that on surface, if you look at it, you'd be like, oh man, that's something good to give to your kid. No, not really.
No. Yeah.
I did like that you did a version which is safe for kids.
Yes.
My daughter's name is Riley, and she saw this on my nightstand, and she's like, oh, that's my name. I'm like, yeah, you can't read that. You can't read this one. This one's not for your eyes. But I would love to hear, kind of the story, and then we'll go back and talk about some of your older stuff.
Sure.
How did this character come about? Where did the idea come from? Riley?
I've always been a very traditional art person, pencils, paper, pen. And then I got a bonus at work and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna buy an iPad and an iPencil. And I didn't want to, I was in the middle of a very long book that I was working on. And I was like, I don't want to just all of a sudden jump to digital at, 75 pages into a book. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I need something that I can just goof around with and learn the program. And I had just thought, what'd be funny is if you got to see what a teenage Bigfoot was like. And then I started just I sketched maybe 5 Bigfoots on skateboards. And I was like, yeah, I got this. And then I just started pumping out the strips, and I got 10 times the reaction that I got to anything I've ever done. I was like, did I just find the thing that I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Because nothing else has hit this way. And I was very excited. And I was put the big old traditional book on the back burner for a while. And just started thinking of the dumbest things I could possibly think of that a teenager would do. A lot of them are things that I still do now, but I blame the weed. Which I live in a state where it's legal, so don't like come at me, government.
I live in a state where it's legal too. I don't partake anymore because of some, you know,
Yes. Your non-comic period.
Yeah, I have to. I have to do it for my own well-being and the well-being of others around me. So
yes,
but I can still appreciate the humor, and I think it is some of the stuff that I really dig the most. Not to mention the fact that you have a cameo of my friend Eli's in the book. You know,
yeah,
that's really cool.
Eli is just a super fun dude to draw. He has got a face for drawing, just like so good. I'm just mad that the week that I put him in the comic strip was the same week that Mike Allred drew him. I was way overshadowed by Mike Allred. Like people were like, "Whoa, Eli, you got drawn by Mike Allred," and he's like, "Yeah, and I got drawn by Jeff Manley," and they're like, "So."
I mean, either way, for Eli, it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to, like I mentioned, you did the Safe for Kids one. What kind of prompted you to do that? Considering that I think 3 books out of the right before you did that one?
Yeah. Well, the third, it was between the second and the third book, but it featured stuff that would be in the third book.
Okay. All right.
And just because I've got everything sitting next to me, it looks like this. It's the exact same size as the Peanuts classic books from the 70s that I loved so much. And with it, I was just like, I had the thought, how would I even like rework? Like there's like a local alternative paper in our area, and people are always like, "Oh, get your comics in there," and I'm like, I'd have to like edit what I say, and I don't think that'd be like, I don't think it would work. But then I started like ruminating on it and thinking, well, how would I edit these comics to make them not, you know, to make them so they were safe for kids?
Right.
And then you know, it's so easy when you got all your files digital just to erase a word balloon and write new text in. And so I just kept going with the weirdest non sequitur things I could think of. Like I have one strip, for example, where Riley and his friend Ed, there's like a Bigfoot hunter that comes into the woods and looks for them. And the first time they see him, he's putting poop into a bag, and they're just like, "Is that guy stealing your shit?" And then they're like, "We're gonna have to kill him now." And so when I altered it for a safe, I didn't change any of the art, so it's still poop. But I just said, "Is that guy stealing your pickles?" And it would just make me laugh so much that I was just like, I gotta keep doing more of these. And so I knew that it was very niche. I know how many people buy my books, and I know how many of them are like, "Oh, I wish this was safe for kids." Like it's not something that people request a lot.
Right.
To edit down a slightly filthy drug using book. So it was just one of those things where I really like to make books. I'm a graphic designer during the day, so anytime I can step up and design something for myself, like a big old this right here behind me is a shower curtain that will be used as a backdrop at cons when I start going to cons again. And so I like to entertain myself with printing projects, and that just fell into the category of, I think this would be really funny if I did this.
Yeah, I mean, I do love that you designed some really dope books. I mean, the packaging, for lack of a better word, from the paper stock to the covers and everything, I really dig your stuff, man. I really think that it hits every time I read something of yours. It's just I love it. But
well, good.
Yeah,
I like that.
Are you still? Do you think you'll do another one? Like, what was the response for the Safe for Kids? Is it something you?
I will do another one just for myself.
Okay.
That's basically like eventually. I have the 3 volumes, in individual form, and then I was going to put together, volume 4, and I was like, just part of the indie market is like, you might sell a lot on your first one, and then your sales go down the second one, your sales go down a third one. And then I was like, am I going to sell enough for the fourth one to put all this time and effort into it, into laying it out and all that stuff, when I'm not really, going to make a lot of money off it.
Mhm.
And so then I just decided I've always wanted to, do the complete, where it's like, a math, like where I could get spine text is what I was aiming for, because
Yeah.
like in smaller books, it's very hard to get spine text on. And so I was just basically like, is it cost effective to make a fourth book and try to sell that, or just jump right into a 200 strip collection that cost wise, you pay $20 for 200, or you pay $10 each for 4 of these,
Mhm.
And so sitting at a table at a con, you're more likely to sell one $20 book than 4 $10 books. But then the problem is, now I got to wait another full year to make another book. And so that's when, I'll get bored and I'll do more Safe for Kids.
Okay.
Because I know it's going to be a long time before I have enough Riley strips to make book 2 of the complete.
Okay. So what would have been book 4 is now in the complete?
Yes, right. And also the Safe for Kids is in there too. And in the Safe for Kids, the paperback size one, it's like each panel is 1 page.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when you buy the complete, it's, just how all the strips are.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a slightly different formatting for the Safe for Kids ones that make it blend in better.
And what has the response been for the Kickstarter so far?
Well, I set a reasonable goal for myself, and I smashed past that in 2 days. If you go to Kickstarter and search The Complete Riley, it should come up. Basically, I had like a pre-order for the book, just basically for friends and Kayfabe people, who are like my biggest supporters. I'm not gonna lie about that. And so I basically took what I made from my pre-order sales and said, well, let's see if I can make that again going to Kickstarter. I have a friend who's a cartoonist, and he's like, Jeff, your pre-order thing is good, but you're not hitting people that don't know who you are. And he's like, you got to take this to Kickstarter, because it's a good product, and you'll get people that see you that are just searching for comics and that don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. And I've pretty much almost doubled my goal on Kickstarter. So to the point where I had to figure out what stretch goal to do, because it's like, I've already went past my goal and I still have half a month left. And so I have a Kickstarter, my original goal was $500, blew past that. And then I put a stretch goal to get, to make a 1-inch Riley enamel pin. Mm-hmm. And so at $1,000, anybody that backs it will get a Riley pin. And basically, since the day I created Riley, a Teenage Bigfoot, I've wanted it in a pin. My iPad bag is covered with pins, but none of them are my character. It's kind of like I'm letting people pay to fulfill my dream of seeing my character in metal and enamel.
I mean, it's pretty dope, man. I mean, the response, I see it in the group, like when you share your posts, how people respond to it. Is it safe to say that this is the character that you would be happy doing?
Oh yeah, no, every time I think I'm running out of ideas, like I'll basically how I write it is, if I'm sitting at work and I should be working, I hope my boss doesn't watch this, I'll take a piece of paper out and I'll just like sketch out like a simple box make it 4 panels. And then I'll just be like, what would be funny? And then every so often I'll just be sitting there going, I have nothing. There's nothing funny. And I'll go through all of my old thumbnails that I've I've built up, you know, like, oh, sometimes when I start writing, I'll write like 4 in a row and I'll be like, I'm on a streak. Then I'll make those comics, all 4 of them, then I've got nothing. And then I'm like, oh no, I've got nothing. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And so then I'll just sit with a blank iPad screen and I'll be like, well, maybe I should do this, or, you know, or something weird happens in my life. And I'm like, oh, that would be great to throw in. Like one time last year, I was living with a friend of mine, and we were both high as hell on the back porch. And I was like, holy shit, look, a woodpecker. And all of a sudden another woodpecker came and just slammed into the back. And I'm just like, that woodpecker just got like just smashed. We just watched it. And I was like, this is a Riley strip, like instantly, like I knew. So
Yeah.
If you read it, a lot of the things are possibly based on my life.
That makes them even better than they were before. So, you know, and besides Riley, which obviously takes up a huge amount of your time.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned it earlier. You worked on the Image Grand Design / Image Grand Master project, which was
right.
Basically a fan project orchestrated through through the group, right? The Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Siege. Yeah, I love it, dude. It's awesome. I want to know, like, what did that project? I've talked to a lot of people that were part of that project, and everybody's had like different experiences. But the one thing that I've heard from everybody was how the positivity that was in that group and the kind of fellowship, the brotherhood that was created amongst all of you guys coming together during such a shitty fucking year. I can't describe it any other way, you know, like, and I did not have it as bad as others, you know, I'm not going to say that I had a horrible year. It was difficult, but I managed, you know, people had.
But you've had worse years is what you're saying.
Yeah. And people had it worse than I did.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, like just so many different stories came out of, you know, the people that I've talked to. I want to know what that meant to you and what it was like working on.
So basically last summer after the Wizard, you know, came out, everybody was like, let's do this Image Grand Design thing. And I was like, well, you know, I don't connect to the Wizard, the Image stuff. So I'm out, you know, have fun, guys. And then it was like, I'm going to say March of this year, where I was contacted by somebody and they're like, hey, Jeff, you know that like Gru and Bone were published an Image at one point. You got anything you could throw in? You know, just like a couple pages. I think they were running short. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. I think. Let me think if I can come up with an idea. And then, like all good ideas, I sat in a garage and I smoked some weed. And then I thought, what if Gru lost his sword and then just pulled out his massive penis and started beating up on rat creatures? And I think it still makes me laugh when I look at it.
That's hilarious.
And then there was some controversy that basically only one other person had drawn like nudity, and they wanted it to be a little more family friendly for a version. And so then I was asked if I could like put a censor bar over it. And I'm like, well, what if I just turned it into a banana? And they're like, okay, do whatever you want. And so there are versions of the story where instead of a penis, it's a banana. So, and that's pretty funny to me.
Yeah, I think that project was awesome. You know, so much talent on that book.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Same.
And then when they were just putting together a hardcover version of it, and they contacted me and they're like, hey, can you do a pinup of this? Like, we like the way you drew the Gru stuff. Can you do like a pinup that hasn't been shown anywhere? So I don't think I can mention that it's Mad Men and Bone Brothers. Oh, I just did. But so the hardcover version will have even more of my work in it, which is always exciting to me to get more work into something.
Oh yeah, dude. Is there anything else that you're working on? Anything that you've been kind of toying with in terms of maybe people in the group teaming up with them?
Well, I am a part of Next Panel Press with Eli and a bunch of fantastic other cartoonists. where every 2 weeks, it's basically like we're making our own Sunday comics page. And in that, the graphic novel that I was working on before I created Teenage Bigfoot, I decided to go back through and just basically take a photo of each page that I had done and then ink it digitally to see what would happen. And what happened was they look a lot better because I've gotten a lot better since I was working on those pages. And so whenever Next Panel Press posts, you get a new page of my graphic novel, which is, I've forgotten the page. Oh, darn it. How did I forget the name of my own dang book? I just do too much stuff. It is a sequel to Gone. So characters from my graphic novel Gone. Right there. I saw
got it right here.
Yep. And Terror in the Shallow. I just remembered. I was stalling.
There we go.
Terror in the
That's
Shallow.
fine.
Yeah. And so it's basically what I think of as horror comics for kids, And so it's pretty much the opposite of Teenage Bigfoot. There's slight gore in it, but not enough to where, it would like make parents mad. But so I'm working on that so every 2 weeks I have to make sure I have one of these pages inked, digitally that I had started a while back.
I know.
I'm trying to think of what else. Just still plugging away. I was in Weapon X, the fan remake of Weapon X.
Right.
And that fulfilled a dream of mine. I've been friends with cartoonists Alex Robinson and Tony Consiglio for like 20 years now. And they were always like big names compared to little old Jeff Manley. And then we've all found ourselves in the same book. I was pretty excited. I didn't even know they were going to be in the book. So that was nice, a nice surprise when the book was being put together and I found out that they were both in it. I was like, yes, I'm finally in a book with Alex and Tony. So
yeah, I love that book also. I think all the stuff coming from the group, like your own work, right? Or whoever I'm talking to, anybody in the group, or like the group stuff that comes together, like the magazine, and then you have the Weapon X. You got Image Grand Design. You have the 1963 Giant Size Annual that's going to be coming out.
Yep.
It's like there's so many projects. Coming out that it's just very exciting.
I also there's going to be the Summer of Batman '89, which is a collection of stories and art based off of the movie Batman coming out in 1989. And on that one, I did a pinup that is headed to me right now. My girlfriend is listening this whole time and she's like, oh, this would be a good time to show off. So I recreated one of my favorites, Kelvin and Hobbes pages, and made it and turned it into, Batman and Joker dancing to Bat Dance because
that's
got a little princess.
I love that. There. Yeah, I love that.
And so I did that like the same week they asked for people to get the book. They're like, hey, anybody got some stuff to submit to this book? I was like, here, I'm doing this. And then like the same week I turned it in, and that was months and months ago. And the guy putting it together was like, okay, we're hitting close to the deadline. I had to like message and say, did I already send you this? Because I don't even remember. It was so long.
Because it's been that long? Yeah.
I have a tendency to just like once I get, that ask of like, oh, can you do a pinup? Can you do this? I just like jump right into it and get it done as quickly as possible because I'm also probably going to forget if I don't.
See, that is my problem.
Anybody watching this is probably like, yeah, you still owe me something, Jeff. Somebody is probably watching right now thinking that.
I mean, I'm exactly the same way. Like I initially will be like, oh yes, I want to do that.
Yes.
Procrastinate and I start doing stuff and then I'm like, oh fuck, the deadline's coming up. Oh fuck, I'm not gonna be able to make it. Like that's happened already twice now to where I just couldn't lock down time between the working, and I was working at the shop and the restaurant, and I'm still kind of doing both and doing the channel. It's I should follow your example. The minute I hear something, I should just
you got to get it done.
Zone right in on it. any other projects in terms of like the fan stuff with the group that you?
Everything that I've seen being bandied about, I've like, it doesn't connect with me. There's something. Okay. I don't know if I can say this since I'm not in it, but there might be another recreation similar to Weapon X, and I thought about it, and I was like, I just like none of the pages of this book. It's a fantastic book, which I love. It's one of my favorite superhero books of all time. Right. But none of it really speaks to my art style or sense of humor, and I couldn't think of anything that would work.
That makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
So a lot of my projects are basically, if it comes up and I have like an instantly good idea that I can jump on right away, that I do. I'm excited for Wizard issue 2 to come out, because that's one of those where once Eli started talking about it, I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then I did it and I sent it to Eli. And that was literally a year ago. Like, I do not remember anything about what I have done, except for the fact that I, like Ed Piskor would say, nobody's going to really sell your work for you. You have to push yourself on people, Yeah. I'm paraphrasing heavily, but, and so I'm like, no comics magazine is coming to me for an interview. So I'll just interview myself. And so in Wizard 2, there's an exclusive interview with Jeff Manley where I got very, very high, and I just typed up like 20 questions for myself. And then I waited a week because I then forgot what I typed. And then I went back in and I answered those questions.
That's awesome.
And I have to say that High Jeff was very snarky towards regular Jeff. Like, there was some very biting comments where I'm just like, dude, that's kind of hurtful. So that'll be an interesting one for people to read.
Yeah, I'm stoked to read it. Like, that's the one thing I didn't miss the mark on. I got in there, I wrote an article, and then
awesome.
An interview. And the interview I did, by the time this thing comes out, is already outdated. You know what I mean? In terms of like what the creator was working on. But yeah, I mean, I'm super stoked to, like, last time editing it kind of got me into the Kayfabe channel, which got me into the group. And so, like, to be a part of that is super cool. You know what I mean? Like, to be a part of all you guys.
Did Eli introduce you to the Kayfabe channel? Like, as a comics retailer, you didn't know about the Cartoonist Kayfabe?
No, I was not familiar with
Okay.
I think I had, obviously, like, you get recommended stuff, and I think saw videos of like Wizard magazine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I didn't really watch it.
Yeah.
And Eli had, like, he knew that I did the site and stuff, and he's like, oh, are you editing other people's stuff on your site as well? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's my site, so like they do. I will change, like, if there's typos, all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, well, would you be down to help me? And then when I helped him do it, he's like, do you know what the Cartoonist Kayfabe is? I'm like, not really. Like, I kind of but I'm still down to help you edit. Like, editing text is like, reading the articles, the interviews that he was doing, really just kicked it off for me. And I'm like, man, I want to know more. And then I actually started watching interviews first, some of the interviews they had. And I'm like, oh man, these guys are cool. And then I got into Street Angel, and then I got into, first of all, hip hop family tree. Like, I love hip hop. Like, that's one of, I don't want to say it's my favorite genre, because I like all music. I don't really like, it doesn't matter what it is.
Don't you make some hip hop of your own? Don't I remember hearing this at some point? You have to.
No.
You look like you're like a few face tattoos away from being a hip hop star.
I would never tattoo my face. That is something I will never do. I will block my arms and my legs and my whole body. You won't ever see. I'm not Post Malone, so that's not, but yeah, so like the hip hop family tree, my entry into Ed Piskor's work, and so I knew his name, right? Like, that's kind of I got into it, and dude, it's just like from there it kind of spiraled, and Eli added me to the group, and I kind of would look at it, right? But I didn't know. So by then, like, as I start watching I went back to the beginning. The pandemic was the perfect time. I went to to day one from the channel, and I watched every single episode. Obviously, I can't keep up anymore because they're every day. It's too hard.
Well, yeah.
But you know, I think that's how I saw your stuff. I think you sent them some.
Yep.
That's
they raved about this book right here, which is also a paperback size, like in the 70s, where I took I had there's used to be a website. I mean, it still exists, but there was a comic website called Study Group Comics, and it's put out by Zach Soto, and I was doing a comic strip about, basically it's Spaceman Spiff, but you know, not Calvin and Hobbes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just reached out to him and I was like, hey, would you put this comic on your site? And so like every week you would get 6 black and white comic strips and then 1 like splash page full color strip. And you would just like scroll down and read this comic about a toddler in space, basically. And so then on one of the episodes of Kayfabe, where Jim was talking about, I wish they would have made Calvin and Hobbes strips in the paperback books. I thought, I wish they would have done that too. And then I'd been sitting on the Zero Adventure stuff, like I had kind of just stopped. I had a lot of like life problems going on. And so I never really ended the story. And so I thought I should put it together into like the little paperback book size. And so in it, instead of like, it was like a 3-4 panel, like straight across. So then in it, I had to like edit it in a way that those comics used to be edited in the newspaper, of just taking like one panel on top of the other, and you have to kind of reformat it, you know, that kind of thing. And so then, of course, I sent it in back to the Kayfabe days when they did mailbag episodes. They were both like, this is amazing. You know, I can't wait to get home and read this. And I was like, yes, it is amazing. Thank you. And then they had some kind of like issue with people on the mailbag episodes. And then they just like took all of them down off the internet. And so there goes.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I don't know. There was one person that sent their work in and they didn't like what they said about them. And then they were just like giving them shit or something, to the point where they're just like, fuck. Yeah, they're just like, fuck it. We'll take down, you know, mailbag episodes. And then they just started doing them again. But I think they're very curating now as compared to what they used to do, where it was just like, they just take a big stack of stuff that they got and show it off.
God damn it. So somebody complained. That's why
somebody ruined it. Yeah.
Motherfucker, dude. You know, I can't even go back. Like I used to be, I'd save the videos, try to like screenshot while I was watching it on my phone. But now I can't even go back and like some of those people that I saw that I forgot about. I've no knowing now. So it's some asshole fucking ruined it for everybody. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really annoying. So
So I've known of Jim and Ed for, you know, pretty much all of the 2000s. You know, I used to go to a small press show in Ohio called Space. And one year, like Jim was like 3 tables away from me. And when he just had floppies of Street Angel, like fold and staple himself, Street Angel. And I'm pretty sure Brian Maruca was also at the table, who most people don't think exists. And so then when I followed him on social media since, you know, Facebook started. And so then when on Instagram I saw him talk about he's making this YouTube channel, I was like the 13th person that subscribed to Cartoonist Kayfabe. And I've been like, I watch it like way too much. Like all
I mean, dude, I told you, right? I caught up very quickly. Very quickly. Like any task I was doing in my house, I had my phone propped up and I was either listening or watching and listening. But I had it there, and I mean, dude, I discovered like people like you, so many dope cartoonists I discovered, even like old stuff, right? Like old stuff that I should have been knowing about, but I just, you know, it just didn't come across my radar. And I mean, Jim and Ed cost me a lot of money.
I'm sure.
I bought so much shit because of that they were talking about. But you know what? I'm happy with it.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
And it's kind of like Rob Liefeld's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Motherfucker is constantly talking about stuff. I mean, he was talking about ElfQuest last week, and
Oh yeah.
book one of ElfQuest. I've never read it, but I'm like, all right, dude. He said it was dope. I gotta check it out. You know,
Yeah.
it's Robservations, it's Cartoonist Kayfabe, it's the ringside seats. You guys all sharing your passion for comic books. That's why I do what I do. You know what I mean? It helps me do what I do, and it makes it so that while you could call this a job, because I probably put in just as many hours, whether I'm talking,
of course,
editing, it doesn't feel like a job.
Right.
And when it starts to teeter on feeling like it's a job, I just take a little bit of a break. Usually at that point, I have a lot of backlogged episodes, so it doesn't matter. So I can take that break and I'm fine. But it's just cool, you know, like hearing your experience with the stuff too. I just, you know, I dig your stuff, dude, and I'm glad that you took time to, you know, chat with me, dude. It's been a blast.
Yeah, and before any of this ends, I have to tell people that like if you go on Amazon and you search Jeffrey J. Manley, you might find some books. It seems like there's some kind of Amazon algorithm that just doesn't want me to be found. And so like even when I search my own stuff, I have to like be very, very specific in like every single like word of my name, and the, you know, the title of the book is in there to find it. But I have like this book, Abandoned Ship, which is a nice hefty tome that I basically took all these projects that I started, and then for some reason I got distracted, or I decided to just like go in a different direction with things. And so I collected all my like comic strips and comic books that I never finished, and I never will finish. I just said, I'm going to put them all in one book so people can see that you can, you know, start things and not finish them. You know, it's a good thing to learn as a cartoonist that everything doesn't have to be perfect. You know, you can't just, if something isn't feeling right anymore, you can just stop. You know, and I mean, unless somebody is literally giving you a check to make this book, nobody's forcing you to make this book, you know, even if you're not feeling it anymore. And so that book was basically a follow-up to my book Fail, which I was aiming for the most generic cereal brand cover I could think of. But it is just a collection of like art and failed comic strip ideas. And
I need to get those.
There's a webcomic in there called Treasure Hunter, which is basically if you mix Ron Swanson and like Indiana Jones together. and that one I used to be on a comic website called 2-for-1 Comics, where I did a comic strip called Terror Bads, which there's collections on Amazon of those.
Yeah, you sent me
that one was a friend of mine wrote it. And so I used to do a webcomic called Punching the Clock, which if you've ever seen the TV show Superstore, you would like Punching the Clock, because I feel like they ripped off a lot of my jokes. That was written by somebody else. And between those two projects, I learned very quickly that I like to write my own stuff. And so I don't really collaborate that much. I get some people, they're like, hey, I've got this great story idea. Do you want to do the art for it? And then I always think, I'm really busy making stuff that makes me laugh, and I don't have to like fight over creative control or get overshadowed by a writer. Too often the writer gets all the credit for work, even though I'm putting in 90% of the labor of a project that I collaborate on.
Yeah, I feel you.
So I'm not a big fan of collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I personally, I really enjoy work where it's like a singular vision as well. You know, like I think that's why like Jeff Lemire, even though I like all of his stuff, it's what he does by himself that really stands out, because like, you know, that exactly as he's seeing it in his mind, he's putting pencil to paper, and he's
right. And it feels like the majority of cartoonists that I like and search out their work are singular artists, you know. Like, you know, if you find, you know, a Love and Rockets book, you know, there's the brothers, but they're not working on the same story.
No.
Each brother has their own storyline, and you can feel their voice in each person. And I think that's something I look for in a book compared to, like, if you just pick up an issue of Deadpool, it doesn't have that voice because they're trying to have the voice of the character. They're not trying to have an artist's voice.
Correct. Yeah, I totally get you. So before we do get out of here, anything else you want to plug? Where can we find you on social media and stuff like that?
All right. I have a Twitter account that I never use. So don't even bother going there. My Instagram is @Manley Cartoonist, and that's where I post everything. Like, if you want to read the latest Riley, a Teenage Bigfoot, you go there.
Okay.
And that's pretty much where I send people. I have a Big Cartel site if you want to pick up, like a book or two. Search me out on Amazon. I probably have like 22 different books you can find because I just can't stop making books. I'm just can't stop. I have my Kickstarter, The Complete Riley, going right now. I'm like $130 away from hitting my stretch goal. So maybe a couple people watching this video, say, hey, I'm going to give this a shot. Got a good tier. There's even a tier where I'll draw you into the comic strip. So we were talking about that earlier. It's a possibility.
We were talking about that. I need to make sure I get paid before it ends, and I definitely would be down to be on that tier for sure. Make sure you back the Kickstarter. Make sure you check out Jeff Manley's stuff. Super dope cartoonist. And again, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. Definitely want to
thank you
again.
Thank you for even doing this interview with a broken back.
No problem. No problem, dude. I know I'm moving around weird.
I thought I was like a groove. You're just like, I'm grooving.
Yeah, I'm just dancing over here. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it happen. I didn't want to try to reschedule. I did yesterday because I was in excruciating pain.
Yeah,
but I did not want to miss this chance to talk with you, dude.
And like everybody else that's been on the show, I have to say, your girlfriend / wife,
yeah,
she does amazing wildlife paintings.
Thank you. I will definitely let her know once we're done with this recording. Good. But yeah, she loves hearing the feedback from everybody about her art. I think she's amazing. But again, Jeff Manley, guys, go follow his stuff on social media and hit the Kickstarter. 2 weeks left, I believe, as of the time we'll post.
Yes.
All right, cool. And dude, definitely next time you got something that works, we're gonna jump back on here and talk again.
I will come back anytime and talk about myself.